Hello everybody and welcome to the Ozzimon Library. I hope everyone is doing grand. I am your librarian and today we're going to further dive into more Ozzimon. Before we do that though, I just want to say thank you so much for the kind words, the amazing comments and the amount of views we got in the first video. For something as an original idea as the Ozzimon is, over 400 views is absolutely amazing. Sure, there may be some of you that don't see it that way, but I definitely did. So thank you very much for that, I really appreciate it. So in this video, we're going to dive into two extra classes that we didn't cover in the last video. Obviously in the last video, we did cover 3 of the classes, showing off the first 3 Ozzimon. That of course being Forest, Wind, and Water. So in this one, we're going to be covering the 2 classes that aren't really elements, that being Light and Dark. Now, sure, they're not really elemental, I can see why some people would say that, but they have been used in several iterations of Monster Tamer series. Things like Bakugan and Yu-Gi-Oh! Use Light and Dark as kind of a classification or an elemental, classification of some kind. So in this video, we're going to show off 2 Ozzimon, one representing light and one representing dark. So let's dive in with our very first one. The Ozzimon that I want to show off today that represents light for the first time is going to be an Ozzimon called Child Jellic. Now, let me kind of explain what my thought process here, kind of like how my brain worked here when it came to coming up with this Ozzimon. Now, when I think of light and holiness and, just all amount of good there is, my first thought realistically is something like an angel or a white knight of some kind. Now, honestly, I did consider drawing something like a white knight, coming up with a really cool, badass, kind of like Omnimon or Angemon, or like the Chaos Bakugan, for example. They definitely did come to mind. Now, if you look at Bakugan, Chaos is all white, obviously, because it represents the light element, if you class it as an element. They're all white and gold, and I could have done that, absolutely. Angels also work, especially if you go down the biblical route or not, is up to you, but angels definitely would work too. So I did want to do something angelic, but I also wanted to play on the idea of light itself. Positivity, purity, and the first thing that came to mind was children. They're innocent, they don't have hatred. They're not born with negativity. Negativity and every negative emotion is bred into them. Sure, a baby can cry, but that's just their way of signifying their parents, telling you that, hey, something's wrong, but I don't have the vocabulary to tell you that. That's all crying is. They're not born with hatred. So I went with something that would represent a child and an angel at the same time. So when it comes to Child Jellic, I drew somewhat of a child. Now, I also wanted a kind of a balancing theme between the 2, opposing light and dark. So, Child Jellic will have bandages across the mouth, silencing himself, but being able to still be a figure of light and purity and positivity and happiness and life itself. Child Jellic also has 1 angelic wing, not 2. And the wing won't be white either. It'll be kind of like a off light blue. Kind of like a slightly darker colour to the sky or the ocean. I did that because I also see the sky as something positive, right? A sunny day, isn't that kind of what we all hope for when we first wake up in the morning? So I went down that route. So Child Jellic is a mixture of a couple things. A pure innocent child who stands up for what's right. A child who is pure of heart, who does have good intentions, but can't say anything at the same time. The child's hair will be kind of combed back, and it will be in some form of, yellow onesie. Because it is a child, after all. Now, the brown bear on the onesie actually does have some form of significance. You see, I grew up with a brown bear soft toy, or a teddy bear, if you will, and he's called Ozzy. I've had him since I was about 3, and going into my 30s, I still have him to this day, somewhere tucked away in my house, and I've had him ever since. And he was there throughout a lot of the hardships as a child. My parents broke up when I was quite young. I went through some hardships in school. I got bullied a lot. So that's why he's significant on Child Jellic's little onesie. Because it meant something to me, and I wanted something personal in there. The halo above his head obviously just signifies his angelic powers. So, of course, as a fighter, he'd better fly around and use holy beams and white light abilities. I'm thinking something on the lines of, making solidified white light sword constructs, or daggers, maybe. He'd better, shoot energy blasts and energy balls and stuff, and of course he can fly. Height-wise, I'd say he's somewhat of the size of, a 7-year-old, 7-year-old. Yeah, okay, I just noticed what I just did there, I apologize. But anyway, here is Chowjellic, our first representation to the light class. Like I said, we're going with a yellow onesie, because yellow is also a bright and colourful, very positive vibe. Yellow's in nature and it really stands out against nature's shades of greens and oranges around the world. And also, it goes well with white, which obviously white would signify the colour of light itself. So I think that's also helpful, because yellow is also used for electricity, which also gives light. And of course, there we have Chowjellic, our symbol and first representation of the light class. So let's talk about his complete polar opposite, shall we? The dark class. Now, I did think about going down the, maybe I could go down the dark and evil route, completely going down something demonic or something made of shadows. So I thought that was kind of a good idea, but I didn't want to go too on the nose. So, I'm going to introduce you guys to Grin. There's a couple of reasons why he's called this, but we'll get to that in just a moment. I'm a massive sucker for trench coats. The Matrix, Organization 13 from Kingdom Hearts, and things like that. So I really wanted that aesthetic, but minus the hood. The hood would have worked, but I needed something here. I'm going to give Grin horns, because the devil, demons and things like this. The horns are going to be quite veiny and red and, just really stand out. His skin's going to be purple, because I feel like purple works really well for the dark colour. If you look at things that do have evil designs or, a dark negative design, blacks, red, and purples really do stand out for that sort of thing. Albedo obviously has a red Ultimatrix and red colour schemes to his transformations compared to Ben's and things like this. And then, of course, with the darkest Bakugan, there's a lot of purple in there. So I thought it worked well. His arms, or should I say arm, as he only has one, also is quite long, and it is obviously purple. His clothes are slightly torn at the sleeve. It's just a bit torn there, but that's because of the power that his sword can unleash. His sword is going to be thin, quite long, and the blade is going to be chipped and rigid at the tip. His sword is a devastating weapon and can slice through anything as quick as possible, because Grin can step through and use shadows to his advantage. The reason why he's called Grin is because of his actual face. His actual mouth is rigged, sharp teeth, very pointed. Some of them may look rather disgusting. A massive grin is always on his face. He enjoys malice and he enjoys chaos and destruction. And this is obviously a symbol for the Joker, who's one of my favourite supervillains of all time, and possibly my favourite DC supervillain of all time. Now, I did say that he opposes Chowjellic, and that's because the bandages on him is going to be across his eyes. He can't see like an ordinary person. So that's where the balance between the two work. Chowjellic is opposing of, all things evil. He's the symbol of light, but he can't speak. All of his actions is the representation of his holiness, of his protectiveness, of his, symbol of light and truth and hope, where Grin can't see the negativity in the world, but he's able to cause it. He can sense fear in humans, and he can sense power in the other Ozzimon, and that just makes him want to cause more destruction, even though he can't see his aftermath of his own work. I hope that kind of makes some form of sense. But anyway, here's Grin. Grin's gonna be an amazing fighter in the ways of a sword. Of course, he's only got one arm, so he's gonna be one-handed. But he's quick and he's swift with his sword fights. He can kind of float in the air for a little while if he chooses to, but he doesn't like doing it because, of course, he wants to get close up and personal. Chowjellic is a long-range fighter and likes staying in the air, where Grin is quick and up close. Grin's sword can, of course, manipulate darkness and be sheathed in dark energy, and he can step into shadows and disappear completely, reappearing in your own shadow to take you out, and things like that. humans would completely fear Grin. The laughing manically, the creepy smile, the fact he's got no eyes on his head, and his very sharp and rigid sword, of course, oppose a threat. So there we have it, Chargelic and Grin opposing forces in multiple different ways. And of course, our first representation of the light class and the dark class. I hope I did a good job here. Do let me know what you guys think of these Ozzimon. And of course, later down the line, we'll do more Ozzimon as well. With that, we do have 4 more classes that have not had any representation. And I do plan on bringing them up in future videos. And then as time goes on after that, I'll just keep doing Ozzimon and they'll just be thrown into different classes. But I at least want to give a representation to each class first before we do that. Do let me know what you think of Chargelic and Grin. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. And of course, now, as the Ozzimon are coming out, there are going to be some normal videos coming out, per se. Power Rangers, weapon designs, and things like that. So look out for those too. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. We are getting closer to 100 subscribers, and that's absolutely awesome. So I really appreciate the those who do obviously subscribe. Hit the like button, and do let me know what you guys think of the Ozzimon. I really appreciate anybody's thoughts and opinions and stuff. But that being said, I love you all, roar of passion, and I shall see you guys in the next video.